So I do want to go back. Admiral, we talked about the Mind Gym. Many of you have brought up POTF, which has been really important to me. You have mentioned the dwell time, the minimal dwell time that your operators have. How that all comes together, how it's affecting them. The operators are put in very difficult circumstance. Many of them return home and have physical difficulties. And I'll share one story with you. I had the opportunity to visit Fort Bragg just a couple years back, and a very, very good friend of mine was with a group there, a special forces group, and I had the opportunity to go to Thor 3 with him and do one of his workouts. And I'm not embarrassed to say I had my rear end kicked by a one-legged man as we went through some of his training, but it demonstrated to me how important these programs are in getting our operators back to where they need to be, whether they will re-engage in the fight or whether they will prepare to be medically discharged. So if you could, from your own experiences across the panel, please explain to me why you think POTF is important, and what have you seen with your operators to demonstrate why it's important? General Webb.
Madam Chairwoman, as I said, and in fact, my command chief, Chief Smith, and I were just at Walter Reed visiting one of our wounded airmen that was there, had been shot in Afghanistan last year. You know, his point to me was he's got 22 months till his team goes out the door again. He's got a left arm that he needs to get back in full shape. His mindset is already there. And it's these, that is one vignette. Of course, there's a ton at this table that you could go to, but it's that kind of resourcing and that kind of mindset that's instilled, mind, body, spirit wise from our airmen. In my case, that is a really a difference maker, and that gets driven home every time we have one of these visits.
Thank you.
Senator, I think it's important to understand that the capability that we get out of a military treatment facility is really designed to return an individual to a baseline of performance, and that our programs within POTF are designed to try and not only get to pass that baseline, really to get to that full high level of performance that we demand out of our special operators. From a performance perspective, it's kind of the soft ad, if you will. It's the P11 slice of what the services have invested in. But rather than talk about kind of the numbers of the program and access to care and all those great things that POTF has allowed us to do, I would just share that as I go around and I talk to both soldiers and their families, what I hear, particularly from family members, is that over the course of their career, they've heard an awful lot about supportive families and how much we care about families and the soldiers themselves. And many of them say the first demonstrable thing we can point to that really shows you care about how much you're deploying my spouse and how much you're asking of them day in, day out, combat deployment after combat deployment, are the POTF program aspects that have truly focused on how do we help our families not only survive this experience, but really thrive as Army Special Operations families.
Thank you. Admiral?
So I think for all of us, a lot of it's about return to duty, as General Tobo just mentioned on the performance piece. And it's return to duty, it's cutting down the recovery time, it's about extending the service life of the individual, and ensuring they have a good transition post-service with a high quality of life. But I think, in essence, it's improved the operational readiness of the organization. It's strengthened, your favorite word, resiliency of the families. When the family's strong, then the unit is going to be strong. I think that's it in a nutshell. But the cognitive piece is really important again, and maybe can talk more in the closed session about that.
Thank you. General Mundy.
Just all of the above. That's pretty easy to just pile on top of that. It's important because of the way that it fuses all aspects of readiness together, mental, spiritual, physical, and then the families, as others have alluded to here. And so I get around, and I'll just say in 35 years, you can usually find someone who will critique a program or a process but nobody in MARSOC critiques MPOTF and our POTF. It's invaluable to us.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Senator Heinrich.